Urgent! Nigel Farage just exposed Keir Starmer's secret alliance with Brussels elites. Documents leaked at 3:17 p.m. today prove the betrayal. Witnesses report Starmer turned white as a sheet when confronted. And what happened next triggered the biggest political earthquake in decades. Parliament is in complete meltdown. If you want to see how this explosive scandal ends, hit subscribe now, because what happens in the next 48 hours will change Britain forever. Behind closed doors at the European Commission headquarters, something unthinkable happened yesterday. Keir Starmer met privately with Ursula von der Leyen for what was officially called a routine diplomatic exchange. The meeting was scheduled for 30 minutes. It lasted 3 hours and 17 minutes. No aides were present, no minutes were taken, no press was allowed, but one document changed everything. A leaked memo titled UK-EU Realignment Strategy 2025 to 2030. Page after page revealed plans to quietly reintegrate Britain into EU structures without public consultation. And then Starmer spoke just 15 words that would shatter his relationship with British voters forever. The referendum was a mistake we must gradually correct without alerting the public. 15 words. That's all it took. If you want to see how this betrayal unfolds, stay with me because what happens next will stun you. The meeting was supposed to stay confidential. Diplomatic protocol demands it. EU negotiations are delicate, never reckless, never exposed to scrutiny until fully formed. But within 24 hours, the story exploded across Europe. The Telegraph, GB News, even usually sympathetic outlets like Sky couldn't ignore it. Someone had leaked details so damaging they could end Starmer's career overnight. But who? Brussels insiders never breach confidentiality. Downing Street staff are fanatically loyal, which leaves one suspect, Nigel Farage himself. Reform UK's intelligence network has penetrated deeper than anyone imagined, and when Farage revealed what he'd discovered at yesterday's Birmingham rally, witnesses say the crowd became unrecognisable, roaring, surging forward, demanding immediate action. Security guards later admitted they feared for ministers' safety, and then Farage produced the smoking gun that may destroy Labour forever. Brandishing documents on stage, he revealed Starmer's exact words from the Brussels meeting. Slamming his fist on the podium, Farage declared, Starmer told von der Leyen, and I quote, "The British public cannot be trusted with these decisions. We need a staged approach to rejoin, disguised as separate agreements." Gas filled the arena. The crowd froze, then erupted. Some later admitted it was the most shocking betrayal they'd ever heard from a British Prime Minister. But Farage wasn't finished. For 2 years, Starmer has looked you in the eye and promised Brexit was settled. Farage continued. He swore his government would never rejoin the EU. He promised sovereignty would be protected. Every word was a calculated lie. The crowd's reaction was volcanic. Lifelong Labour voters openly weeping with rage. Union members tearing up party cards on live stream. Retired schoolteacher Margaret Wilson from Newcastle hadn't voted for reform before. With tears streaming down her face, she told reporters, "My family worked the shipyards for generations. We survived the closures, we survived the neglect, but I can't survive being lied to about our country's independence." That clip hit 1.7 million views in 6 hours. The mainstream media tried to ignore it, but they couldn't ignore what happened next. While ordinary Britons discover they've been betrayed, Starmer's inner circle enjoys lavish perks from their European partners. We're talking 5-star Brussels accommodations at taxpayer expense, private jets to climate conferences in luxury resorts, French wine worth £600 per bottle served at working dinners, special advisors earning consultant fees from EU-aligned corporations. Meanwhile, British fishermen who believed Brexit promises watch their livelihoods collapse under mysterious new environmental regulations. British farmers face bankruptcy from competition with subsidised EU imports. The contrast is so stark, so indefensible that even traditional Labour strongholds are erupting in protest. In Hartlepool, a town that turned Conservative in 2021 before returning to Labour, workers gathered outside their MP's office chanting, "Traitors out," for 7 straight hours. But then something unprecedented happened that nobody saw coming. King Charles broke decades of royal protocol by commenting on active politics. At an agricultural show in Norfolk, while speaking with farmers about their struggles, he delivered what sounded like casual remarks, but carried devastating implications. One must wonder if the current government truly understands the beating heart of this nation. The King observed with unmistakable concern. Our strength has always been our independence of spirit. Royal watchers were stunned. Palace sources confirm this wasn't a gaffe, but a calculated intervention approved at the highest levels. The King, they say, had reviewed the same leaked documents and was deeply troubled by their contents. Constitutional experts called it the most significant royal intervention since the abdication crisis. For King Charles to even hint at criticism of government policy is extraordinary, said Professor Helen Matthews of Cambridge. It suggests he believes something fundamental about British sovereignty is at risk. The optics are devastating for Starmer. When even the normally reserved monarch feels compelled to speak out, the Prime Minister's position looks increasingly untenable. Former royal correspondent James Wilson noted, the palace only breaks silence when they believe the national interest faces genuine threat. This isn't politics, it's preservation of the realm. Within hours, the fallout was spreading beyond politics. The pound plunged 4.2% against the dollar in the most volatile trading day since Brexit. FTSE 100 companies with heavy European exposure saw shares tumble. Investment firm Morgan Stanley issued an urgent client advisory warning of severe political instability. Inside Parliament, the Labour majority began fracturing along previously invisible fault lines. 27 MPs from Leave voting constituencies issued a joint statement distancing themselves from any policy that contradicts our manifesto commitments on Brexit. Foreign Secretary David Lammy cancelled 3 scheduled appearances. Defence Secretary John Healey was spotted entering Downing Street at 11:43 p.m, looking grim. International reaction was swift and merciless. French President Emmanuel Macron, caught on a hot mic before a press conference, allegedly smiled and said, "It appears our British friends are finally accepting reality." In Washington, senior Republicans warned, any US-UK trade deal would be dead on arrival if Britain re-entered the EU orbit. Social media platforms erupted with hashtags like #BetrayalBrexit and #StarmerLied trending globally. YouGov's overnight poll showed Labour's support collapsing from 38% to just 29% in 24 hours. In Brexit-supporting regions like the East Midlands, support cratered by 18 points. Almost two-thirds of voters, 64%, said they felt misled about Starmer's true intentions. Inside number 10, absolute chaos has engulfed Starmer's operation. Ministers are openly arguing in corridors. Chief of Staff Sue Gray was seen storming out of a strategy meeting, reportedly saying, "This is unsalvageable." 3 special advisors have already quietly cleared their desks. Deputy leaders are forming protective camps around themselves. WhatsApp groups with names like Damage Control and After Keir are buzzing with frantic messages. The question isn't if there'll be a leadership challenge, it's when. Chancellor Rachel Reeves, normally Starmer's staunchest ally, hasn't been seen in public for 36 hours. Her office refuses to answer direct questions about whether she still supports the Prime Minister. She looks shell-shocked. Sources say, like someone who's just discovered her political career is tied to a sinking ship. Meanwhile, Deputy Leader Angela Rayner has been working the phones, speaking to backbenchers one by one. She's offering reassurance, but also carefully positioning herself as the alternative. She's not openly disloyal, one MP confided, but she's making sure everyone knows she had no part in the Brussels negotiations. The atmosphere is toxic. Trust has evaporated. Ministers who just last week pledged undying loyalty to Starmer now avoid being photographed with him. But here's the twist that could shatter the Labour Party forever. Leaked WhatsApp messages from Starmer's inner circle show this wasn't a diplomatic accident. Documents obtained by GB News reveal this has been planned since before the election. If these messages are authentic, and multiple sources confirm they are, then Starmer campaigned on a deliberate strategy of deception. Think about what that means. The entire manifesto commitment to respect Brexit was a calculated lie designed to win power before implementing the opposite policy. The implications are devastating for democracy itself. Voters across the political spectrum are asking the same question. If they lied about this, what else are they lying about? Immigration targets, NHS funding, tax promises. The entire foundation of trust has collapsed. Former Labour strategist James Morris didn't mince words. This makes the Iraq War dossier look like a minor misunderstanding. Labour might not recover from this for a generation. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage is playing this moment like a master conductor. While Starmer hides from cameras and Labour implodes, Farage stands before Union Jack, speaking with the serene confidence of a man vindicated by history. I've spent 30 years warning about Brussels' plan to erase British sovereignty, he declared at an emergency press conference. I was ridiculed, mocked, dismissed as a conspiracy theorist. Today, I stand before you not to celebrate being right, but to mourn what this government planned to do to our democracy. No gloating, no shouting, just righteous certainty. The optics couldn't be more perfect. Reform UK looks like the guardian of British democracy, while Labour looks like foreign agents. The polls tell the shocking story. Conservatives steady at 34%, Labour collapsing to 24%, Reform UK surging to 28%. For the first time in British history, Farage isn't just a protest vote. He's a legitimate contender for government. The electoral map is being redrawn before our eyes. The next 72 hours are absolutely critical. Parliament reconvenes tomorrow morning. The Conservative opposition has tabled an emergency no-confidence motion. At least 17 Labour MPs are reportedly considering voting against their own government. The King has postponed a scheduled foreign tour. EU leaders are frantically calling European capitals, urging them not to comment. Britain is watching its government disintegrate in real time. This crisis makes the Brexit referendum look like a minor policy disagreement. At its centre stands Keir Starmer, a man who campaigned as a patriot but who now looks increasingly like an agent of foreign influence. Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson broke his long political silence with a devastating 5-word tweet. Told you so. Absolutely told you. The tweet has been shared over 300,000 times. Constitutional experts believe this could trigger a fundamental realignment in British politics not seen since the Liberal Party's collapse a century ago. So here's the question that matters. Does Starmer resign in disgrace by the weekend, or does he try to brazen out the biggest betrayal in modern British politics? Did Nigel Farage just effectively end Labour's government less than a year after it began, or did he accidentally position himself as the next Prime Minister? What do you think happens next? Will King Charles make another intervention? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. And if this story shocked you as much as it shocked us, share it with everyone who needs to see what's really happening in Britain right now. The mainstream media won't tell you the full truth, but we will. And tomorrow we'll show you the complete Brussels documents that prove exactly how deep this conspiracy goes. But the story doesn't end there. What happened next sent shockwaves through Westminster that few could have anticipated. At precisely 6:15 a.m. this morning, armed police officers from the National Crime Agency were seen entering the homes of 3 senior Labour Party officials. Sources close to the investigation confirm they were carrying warrants related to potential violations of national security protocols. The implications are staggering. This isn't just about politics anymore, it's about whether laws were broken in service to foreign interests. The 3 officials, whose names we can't reveal for legal reasons, reportedly had direct access to the Brussels negotiations. All 3 had previously worked for pro-EU think tanks before joining Starmer's team. One had even received funding from a foundation linked to George Soros. The connections are becoming impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, a whistleblower from inside Number 10 has come forward with explosive new evidence. Speaking on condition of anonymity to protect their position, this senior civil servant described witnessing systematic destruction of documents in the hours after Farage's Birmingham rally. They were in panic mode, the whistleblower told GB News. Shredders were running non-stop. Staff were ordered to delete specific WhatsApp conversations and emails. I've never seen anything like it. When asked why they decided to speak out now, the Whistleblower's answer was simple and devastating. Because I took an oath to serve the British people, not foreign interests. What I witnessed crossed a line that should never be crossed in a democracy. The whistleblower has reportedly provided investigators with digital backups of some of the destroyed materials. Legal experts say if these allegations are proven, charges could include misconduct in public office, perverting the course of justice, and potentially even offences under the Official Secrets Act. But perhaps the most shocking development came from Brussels itself. In an unprecedented move that has sent European diplomats into crisis mode, a senior official from the European Commission has publicly broken ranks. Jean-Claude Mercier, Deputy Director of Integration Affairs, told Belgian newspaper Le Soir that the Starmer government had been negotiating in secret for months. This was not a one-off meeting, Mercier revealed. There have been at least 14 private engagements since January, all conducted outside official channels. Within hours of the interview's publication, Mercier was placed on administrative leave and his office was sealed. Brussels insiders say von der Leyen personally ordered an investigation into the leak. But it was too late. The confirmation from within the EU's own ranks had already validated everything Farage claimed. Mercier's interview included one particularly damning revelation. The British delegation repeatedly assured us they had a strategy to manage public opinion back home. They called it graduated alignment, small steps that wouldn't trigger alarm bells until it was too late to reverse course. The public reaction has been nothing short of volcanic. In Manchester, thousands of protesters spontaneously gathered outside Labour headquarters, forcing staff to evacuate. In Birmingham, Brexit supporters formed a 5-mile human chain along the central motorway. In Plymouth, fishermen blockaded the harbour with over 60 vessels flying Union Jack flags. Social media platforms report the highest engagement rates on political content since the pandemic began. The hashtag number Starmer must go has been used over 7 million times in the past 24 hours. Even celebrities normally reluctant to engage in politics have broken their silence. Football legend Gary Lineker, usually supportive of Labour, posted a single question that resonated across the political spectrum. If we can't trust them on this, what can we trust them on? The tweet received over 450,000 likes in just 3 hours. The economic impact continues to deepen by the hour. The Bank of England has called an emergency meeting for 3 p.m. today. 3 major investment banks have issued warnings about severe political instability risk in the UK market. The pound has now fallen to its lowest level against the dollar since the 2008 financial crisis. Energy companies report panic buying of fuel across the Midlands and northern England. Supermarkets in leave voting areas have seen shelves emptied of essential items as anxious consumers prepare for uncertain times ahead. This isn't just a political crisis anymore, warned economist Professor Richard Harrington. We're seeing genuine fear about national stability spreading through the real economy. The longer this continues, the more lasting the damage will be. Within Parliament itself, the situation has deteriorated beyond anyone's worst predictions. The Labour Whip's office, responsible for maintaining party discipline, has effectively collapsed. Chief Whip Alan Campbell was hospitalised late last night with what staffers described as extreme exhaustion after reportedly working 72 hours straight trying to hold the party together. At least 35 Labour MPs have now publicly called for Starmer to step aside in the national interest. Former Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell, representing the left wing of the party, condemned what he called the greatest betrayal of working people since the 1930 seconds. Even more surprisingly, 12 MPs from the centrist wing issued a joint statement declaring the position completely unsalvageable. In a particularly symbolic blow, Starmer's own constituency office in Holborn and St Pancras has been surrounded by protesters for 14 consecutive hours. Local party officials were seen removing his name from the building. What makes this crisis unprecedented is how it transcends traditional partisan divisions. This isn't just the right against the left or Brexiteers against Remainers anymore. The feeling of betrayal has united Britons who normally agree on nothing else. Conservative voters stand shoulder to shoulder with traditional Labour supporters, united by a sense that democracy itself has been subverted. In Birmingham, 8-year-old lifelong Labour voter Alan Cartwright found himself nodding in agreement with Conservative supporter Jennifer Davies, 34, as they watched Farage's speech together on a public screen. "I've voted Labour since 1979, Cartwright told reporters, but this isn't about left or right anymore. It's about whether the people or the elites get to decide our country's future." Davies agreed. "I never thought I'd say this, but Farage is speaking for all of us now. Whatever our differences, nobody voted for our democracy to be sold out behind closed doors. The international dimensions continue to expand hourly." The American ambassador has requested an urgent meeting with Foreign Secretary Lamy, who remains unreachable. Representatives from Commonwealth nations have expressed profound concern about the stability of their most important European ally. Most worryingly for Starmer, European leaders themselves appear to be distancing themselves from the toxic fallout. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz cancelled a scheduled call with Downing Street, citing schedule conflicts. French diplomats are privately briefing journalists that Macron feels misled about Britain's readiness for closer integration. The European Commission's press office has gone completely silent, refusing all comment in an unprecedented media blackout. They're cutting Starmer loose, observed veteran EU correspondent Maria Gonzalez. Brussels has decided he's damaged goods and they're protecting their own interests. Meanwhile, the questions about what King Charles knew and when continue to dominate discussion. Constitutional scholars note that the monarch receives confidential briefings on all major government activities through the Privy Council. This means Charles would have been informed about any significant shift in Brexit policy. His public intervention, therefore, takes on even greater significance. This wasn't just a personal opinion, but potentially a deliberate warning based on privileged information. Royal commentators note that Charles has always taken his constitutional responsibilities with extreme seriousness. For him to speak out this way, notes royal historian Dr. Elizabeth Harrington, suggests he believes the very foundations of Britain's constitutional order are under threat. Palace sources confirm the King has cancelled all public engagements for the next week and has requested detailed briefings from senior civil servants, a move typically reserved for times of national emergency. The most remarkable aspect of this unfolding crisis is Nigel Farage's transformation in the public consciousness. For years portrayed as a divisive figure on the political fringes, he now finds himself cast as the defender of democratic principles. His decades of warnings about EU overreach, once dismissed as paranoid fantasy by the political establishment, suddenly appear prophetic. Reform UK's headquarters reports they've received over 25,000 membership applications in the past 48 hours. People who have spent years calling me every name under the sun are suddenly seeing the truth of what I've been saying all along. Farage told supporters in Nottingham this morning. This was never about left versus right. It was always about whether the British people or unelected bureaucrats in Brussels get to decide our future. The crowd's response was deafening. People who had never considered supporting him before were on their feet, applauding a man they now see as having the courage to speak truths others wouldn't. Within the Conservative Party, a fascinating realignment is taking place. Having spent years treating Farage as a threat to their electoral prospects, senior Tories are now openly discussing electoral pacts with Reform UK. The priority must be saving our democracy, former Home Secretary Suella Braverman declared on Radio 4's Today programme. Old party rivalries mean nothing if our sovereignty is surrendered. Conservative Party Chairman James Cleverly neither confirmed nor denied reports that back-channel discussions about constituency arrangements had already begun. Political analysts suggest we could be witnessing the birth of a new political coalition that would fundamentally reshape British politics for decades to come. But perhaps most significantly, a new document has emerged that puts the final nail in Starmer's political coffin. Obtained exclusively by GB News, this memo from Starmer's strategy director to senior EU officials outlines a detailed 5-year plan for what they call public opinion management on European integration. The document is dated March 2024, 2 months before the general election that brought Labour to power. It explicitly acknowledges the need to manage public perceptions through graduated alignment that doesn't trigger sovereignty concerns. Most damning of all, It includes polling data showing Labour strategists knew 78% of their own voters would oppose rejoining the EU, yet they proceeded anyway, confident they could manipulate public opinion over time. The document specifically mentions using crisis opportunities like energy price spikes or supply chain disruptions to justify closer EU alignment without explicitly connecting to the broader integration strategy. As Parliament prepares for today's emergency session, the mood in Westminster is unlike anything seen in modern British politics. Security has been tripled around the building. Metropolitan Police have established a 5-block perimeter to manage the thousands of protesters who began arriving before dawn. Inside the chamber, parliamentary officials have taken the unprecedented step of banning electronic devices over fears that tempers could boil over into physical confrontation. The Speaker of the House, Lindsay Hoyle, has issued special procedural rules limiting speeches to 5 minutes to prevent filibustering. The motion of no confidence is scheduled for debate at 2 p.m, with voting expected around 7 p.m. Political analysts unanimously agree this will be the most consequential parliamentary vote since Britain declared war in 1939. The questions now facing Britain are profound. Can democracy survive when elected leaders deliberately mislead voters on issues of fundamental sovereignty? What happens when the bonds of trust between government and governed are shattered so completely? And perhaps most importantly, is this the moment when Britain finally decides who truly governs, the people through their elected representatives or unaccountable forces beyond their shores? Whatever happens in the next 48 hours will reverberate through British politics for generations. The establishment media wants you to look away. They're desperate to frame this as just another political scandal. But this is something far more significant. This is the moment when the British people decide whether their democracy still means anything at all. If you care about the future of this country, share this report before they try to silence it. The truth must be heard, no matter how uncomfortable it makes those in power. Tomorrow, we'll bring you exclusive footage from inside Parliament as the no confidence vote unfolds. This isn't just news, it's history happening before our eyes.